Manchester United and Arsenal faced each other in the first high-profile clash of this season in the Premier League. And although Arsenal won 1-0 in a very well executed corner routine, did Manchester United play better than them? Manchester United had more ball possession, they had more expected goals, more total shots, more shots on target, and even more accurate passes. So, did Manchester United play better than Arsenal? Did the better team lose the game? Let's take a look. United started playing out with a 3-2 shape in their build-up. Their back three was made by two wide centre-backs, Shaw and Euro, and their goalkeeper, Bandir until it was pushed up into the midfield. The idea of United was to beat Arsenal's press, to drag out their front players so that they can play the ball high up the pitch, straight to the midfield or straight to the back line. Arsenal pressed United in their usual 4-2-4 shape. In the front four, we have Martinelli, Gyokeres, Odegaard, and Saka. In the middle, we have Rice and Zubimendi. In the back four, we have usual Arsenal's back four. As you can see here, both Martinelli and Saka are also high up the pitch, and Euro and Shaw and United's goalkeeper Bandit have time and space on the ball. So what United was doing, they were playing straight long balls to the wide areas where there was a 2v1 situation against Arsenal's fullback. Here we can see Dorgu and Mount are creating a 2v1 situation against White. Now usually Arsenal are very good at stopping this kind of 2v1s because usually you would see Saka and Martinelli drop down, but United wasn't building up from the back. They weren't playing a lot of passes. They were going long, straight to Mount or straight to Dorgu. By the time the ball reached there, Saka or Martinelli couldn't run and reach and cover those places. So United was easily creating a 2v1 situation in the wide areas against Arsenal's fullback. What happens when Arsenal doesn't let Euro or Bandit play those kind of long passes? Here you can see Odegaard is facing Euro, but United play with a very clever tactic here. Euro is using one of the free midfielders or Delete to play a bounce pass or a wall pass. Since United was pushing Delete into the midfield, there was always one free man for United in the midfield to play a bounce pass or a wall pass. Here you can see Euro is playing the pass to Bruno, and then Bruno will play the bounce pass to Casemiro, who is free in this midfield. Here in this play, we can again see that Bandy is being pressurized by Gyokeres, Casemiro is being pressurized by Rice, and Delete is being pressurized by Odegaard. Here in the midfield, we can see a huge gap where Bruno is. But before that, we can see Delete is playing the bounce pass straight to Euro, and Euro is free again to play a long ball. In this shot, you can see that Delete has played the bounce pass straight to Euro, and Euro can play to either Bruno, who is free in the midfield, or to the wide areas where we have discussed how United was creating a 2v1 situation. To tackle the free man in the midfield, Zubimendi jumped on Bruno. Odegaard marked Delete, and Rice marked Casemiro as before, but this created another problem in Arsenal's press. As we had discussed, that United was creating wide overloads on White using Mount and Dorgu. But if Cunha also drops into that zone, then Saliba and White has to mark three United players, Cunha, Mount, and Dorgu, which was also again another overload. So Zubimendi couldn't always mark Bruno. He had to come down into the wide areas to help the Arsenal players with the overload that United was creating. Throughout all of these plays, you can see that United was trying to create a 1v1 situation for Brian Mbeumo on the other side of the field, and this was United's main plan to drag the Arsenal press either on one side or to drag the Arsenal's press towards the United goal so that they can create 1v1 situations in the back line, especially for Brian Mbeumo. And you know why United was trying to do that. Brian Mbeumo massively overperformed his XG last season. He was one of the best. So if you can release Mbeumo behind the defensive line, or if you can give him 1v1 situation against Gabriel or against Calafiori, then there is a huge chance that Mbeumo will score a goal for Manchester United. But let's once again come back to the problem where Zubimendi was trying to help Arsenal's wide areas with the overload of Manchester United. As you can see here is a 3v3 situation with three Manchester United players and three Arsenal players. So this is not an overload because Zubimendi has dropped there and is trying to help Arsenal. But this means Bruno is once again free in the midfield. As you can see, neither Rice nor Odegaard is covering Bruno. He is free to receive the pass, and Bruno was actually the most creative player of Manchester United in the whole match. As you can see in this part also, that Bruno is again free. Zubimendi is trying to cover up the wide overload. This whole overloading fiasco had created a double conundrum for Zubimendi. This created a tension in Arsenal's press. Zubimendi had to come to cover Bruno, but then he had to again drop deep to cover the wide overloads. This meant that Bruno was often free in the midfield. As you can see in this play, that United's players are being covered very well by various Arsenal players, except Bruno. Bruno is not covered by Zubimendi or anyone because Zubimendi is out there wide. He is thinking that if Bandit plays the ball to Euro, then Euro will again switch the ball straight to Mount and he has to cover the overload. But here, Bruno is free and Bandit plays a straight ball, splitting the defense to Bruno. What happens next is that Bruno receives the ball and Zubimendi is running behind to tackle Bruno, but he couldn't do that on time, and Bruno releases Mbeumo in this play. Mbeumo once again was Manchester United's main focus. They wanted Mbeumo to be 1v1 or beyond the defensive line to score goals. Other than Bruno, Arsenal also had to face another problem in the midfield. That was Matheus Cunha, United's latest signing. Cunha was playing as a false nine in this setup, and he was constantly dropping in the midfield. Cunha didn't win a lot of aerial duels, but he had won the highest number of ground duels. But other than that, Cunha also had a very important role to play in this Manchester United setup. As you can see here, Cunha is dropping on the other side of the field to create a 3v2 advantage with Arsenal. Here that didn't work as Zubimendi dropped here. But as I have explained before, Zubimendi dropping in this kind of zones was actually freeing up Bruno. So Cunha dropping in these zones was actually creating a 3v2 advantage in the wide areas. Another thing that Cunha did a lot was play this kind of bounce passes to release Mbeumo. As you can see, Euro is playing a diagonal ball to Cunha, who can play a bounce ball behind the Arsenal's defense so that Mbeumo can be released there. But his role didn't only end here. Cunha was dropping constantly in the midfield. That means he was also sometimes dragging out Arsenal's defense. Here you can see Cunha is dragging out Saliba, which is creating a gap in Arsenal's defense where Bruno. But enough about United. What did Arsenal try to do in attack? Arsenal had also signed their star striker, that is Gyokeres, with a lot of money. And Arsenal tried to play according to how Gyokeres would be strong in this attack. Gyokeres, as we know, is a striker who loves to play in transitions, who loves to run down the channels and score goals. So Arsenal tried to do that. Here you can see in this shot, there is a long ball that has been sent straight to Gyokeres, and Martinelli and Saka are ready to bounce in the transition. But Manchester United's Dillit handled Gyokeres really, really well. He didn't give Gyokeres space or chance to receive any of the balls, and Gyokeres completely failed to make any sort of difference. As you can see here also, again, there is another long ball coming straight towards Gyokeres, and there is Martinelli and Saka, but Dillit once again dealing with Gyokeres. But Arsenal overall was also poor in transition. As you can see, this is a transition moment for Arsenal. Odegaard is carrying the ball, is trying to play a pass, and Gyökeres, Saka, and Martinelli are trying to run into spaces. Gyökeres is really good in this kind of situation, by the way. So Arsenal was trying to play a more transitional game so that Gyökeres can be brought into play a lot more. But Arsenal was really poor in transition. As you can see, here Saka actually fails to do anything from the wide areas. These are the zones where Saka is really good at. Here you can see once again another transitional moment. Odegaard has the ball, but Odegaard fails to play a good pass. Here is another moment. Once again, Gyökeres, Saka, and Odegaard running into space. Another transitional moment. Martinelli fails to play the right pass. In the second half, Arsenal made a change in their pressing. Gyokeres, instead of mostly pressing the goalkeeper, started pressing Euro, as you can see in this play. Euro plays to the goalkeeper, but here is the key change. Before, the goalkeeper was playing a wall pass to Delete or a bounce pass to Delete or Bruno, but here, as you can see, Odegaard is trying really hard to stop that bounce pass, and he is successful. Goalkeeper Bandy plays it to Shaw, and Shaw is being praised by Saka, and this was the whole thing. Even when Havertz came in, as you can see, He is pressing the goalkeeper. Odegaard is marking Delete very closely. Rice is marking Casemiro so that they cannot play the bounce pass or the wall pass. And Saka is ready to go and press. Sure, here Fernandes is also being marked by Zubimendi very heavily. Around 60 to 65 minutes, Arsenal sort of started to sit back a little, and Manchester United in those moments brought in Ahmad. Ahmad, as you know, is a lot better in attacking than Dalo, who is a fullback, but Ahmad is actually a winger. So Ahmad actually created a lot more attacks down this side where Mbeumo is. Arsenal also brought in Madueke. I guess Arsenal's idea was that Madueke would carry the ball and create a new kind of threat here, but Madueke was mostly busy in defensive duty to cover up Ahmad, which actually backfired for Arsenal. As you can see, Ahmad is really carrying the ball here, and he was really prominent in the attack for Manchester United. The moment Ahmad came on, you can see Brian Mbeumo's pass map here. This was his pass map in the first half when Ahmad was not there, and you can see there are so few passes. And this was the pass map for Brian Mbeumo in the second half when Ahmad was there, and there are so many passes. That side of the field really opened up the moment Ahmad was brought in by Manchester United. At the end, Manchester United brought in finally Benjamin Sesko, who also couldn't make a huge difference in the game. But I feel in this kind of setup, Benjamin Sesko would be a lot more successful than a Cunha false nine or Mason Mount in this kind of half spaces. But if you want this kind of transition threat where Manchester United are going 1v1 against every player in Arsenal's backline, Sheshko is a lot more helpful as a weighted center forward right in the middle who can, pull back the defensive line, and then players like Cunha, Mbeumo, etc. can do their magic. Manchester United also lacked a presence inside the box, which I think could be solved also by a player like Benjamin Sesko, who is, who can, get into the box, get at the end of those headers, get at the end of those crosses, of those passes, and Sesko can really make this style a lot better. So ultimately, was United better than Arsenal? I think yes, United was better than Arsenal. Arsenal is trying too hard to incorporate their new striker Gyokeres into their play, and why shouldn't they? They have bought him with such a huge amount of money. But Gyokeres is a transitional striker, and Arsenal is not a team that has played in transitional moments a lot. They like to control every phase of the game. But players like Martinelli, Odegaard, this kind of players aren't built for a fast transitional game. Ultimately, I think if Arsenal didn't have that good defense or if they weren't that good in set pieces, they probably wouldn't have won the match. So yeah, United were the better team and the better team lost the game. But let me know, what do you think? Do you think that United, being the better team, lost the game, or do you think that Arsenal deserved to win?